Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric and a continuing series, Survival Horror Sanctuary, where I take a look at some of my favorite rare or obscure survival horror games of all time. And today we're taking a look at a game that I've wanted to talk about on the channel for a very long time, and that is Haunting Ground, also known as Demento in Japan. And as opposed to doing the usual intro, like and subscribe, all that, I really want to get right into what Haunting Ground is, because this is a very special game. It is one of the most effective games when it comes to storytelling, suspense, and horror that I have ever played. But I will say, and that's why I left the warning off the top, this game does involve a lot as far as the concept of violence towards women, voyeurism, and a lot of other things that I don't even really want to say just in case the YouTube algorithm pings me, but you'll understand as I move further forward. But this game is highly acclaimed. Unfortunately, it's rare and or obscure because original copies now go for a small fortune. If you are trying to buy this game, I hate to say it, but I bought this for $10 probably 14 years ago, and it has been in my collection ever since. But it is one of the best survival horror games ever made, in my opinion. It's from Capcom, and it has a lot of Resident Evil vibes to it, but it's its own game, and it stands on its own, and I think it may be the best horror game Capcom has ever made. I'm sure I'll get comments below as to why that's not true. But you'll see here the maid of this manor has laid out clothing for us, and I'm not telling you why we're here. I don't want to spoil many of the story elements for you, but in this intro you'll see as our main character starts to change, there's somebody watching from behind the wall, and she's about ready to drop her towel, and there's groaning and loud noises. You can't be sure what the person behind the painting is doing, but presumptions would probably be correct. But that is what this game is all about. It is perverse, it is warped, it is twisted, it is voyeuristic. It's all the things that are effective in horror movies. But I will say the protagonist is never treated in a way that seems cringe-inducing or otherwise inappropriate. At the end of the game, she's going to be the victor over everybody in this castle, and she's going to come out as a strong heroine, not one that needs to be rescued. And so in that way, it's relatively modern. Now, I can't imagine they would make Haunting Ground in 2022 and release it. I think the news stories about it would be ever so slightly worse. But from a technical standpoint too, outside of the actual narrative and how great this game is, it is an outstanding achievement as far as PlayStation 2 hardware is concerned. When you're playing this game, there are no loading screens. If you want to open a door, you stop at it, she opens the door, and you can run right through it. Unless it's locked, of course, we need to find a key or the other side of that door. But this game is absolutely epic as far as how much it pushes the PlayStation hardware. It sounds great, it looks great, there's no loading, and that's going to become very important shortly as to why there's no loading zones between doors. But you'll see here now that we have the ability to kick, there is an alchemy undertone to this game. You are able to craft certain things. You will see there that I had a little bit of a bobble on the stairs. This uses a camera relative control system, which means as the camera moves, the direction you're holding the analog stick may not be as accurate as you would think. It takes about 10 minutes to get your brain wrapped around that as far as the older style of controls are concerned, but you'll get there, don't worry. And you will see here that we observe blood on a pillar, and the screen's going to start to distort. This has a stress or fear meter. It's never on the screen, and I love the fact that there is no heads-up display, but as you get more frightened, the control gets a little bit looser, the camera gets a little bit shakier, and you definitely need to control how much fear you have for your main character. But as we walk down the hall here, this is an absolutely amazing area in the game, and soon I'm going to be showing you a cutscene. I will let you watch it just so you can better understand. But even the camera angles this game uses, even though it's in full 3D and not pre-rendered, looking down from this room, this little alcove filled with books, is a pretty spectacular moment. But like I said, we have a lot of story coming, and this game's story is absolutely outstanding. It's some of the best that Capcom's ever put to paper, in my opinion. But watch this cutscene, it is quite good. The cutscenes in this game are absolutely spectacular, and now that we are in the pursuit stage, you will see that character there dropped his doll, a female doll, in pursuit of our protagonist. For what purpose is he pursuing her? I will leave that to your imagination. The game never really answers that fully, but this is the core gameplay hook. You are going to be pursued by many different enemies, and it is your job to hide from them to make sure you are not captured. If you're captured, it's game over. But the music in these segments is absolutely outstanding, how it deforms and mutates, so go ahead and listen listen for like 30-45 seconds and I'll come back and tell you more about why Haunting Ground is a special game above almost all others. The sound design and soundtrack in this game are absolutely spectacular, but now that we got the coast clear sign because the pursuer has left the room, we're able to move about the castle again, and the audio actually drops out to tell you that that pursuit is over. And I will say, maybe the second time you use the hiding spot, it might not be as effective as the first. But now that we've evaded that pursuit, we have access to another part of the castle, and this castle is quite big. There is a ton to see in it. But as we move the crate past the door and go in, we're going to get a little bit more flavor text as far as the alchemy is concerned. And what I will say is a tip that might not be obvious when you first play the game: if you pick something up, you probably should go into your inventory and check it, because there may be information in there that you need to know. As I take a look at the stone golem on the wall, I'm not sure how familiar you are with Judaism. I'm not Jewish, but I do know a little bit about it. Basically, in the lore is that you put different requests in the golem's mouth and you gave it a name, and then it would take actions for you. But as we read that parchment, we find out his name is Emeth. What are we going to do with that name? Well, this isn't really a spoiler. It's one of the first puzzles and it's not that hard. But if we go over here, we're going to find another room and we're going to be able to make something to move that golem out of the way of the door. All the puzzles in Haunting Ground are quite creative and they work really well. Nothing is so hard that it doesn't make sense, and nothing is so easy that it's an obvious gimme. But I love that even a lot of objects in the world that don't have any function have that text description with it. It just says that the chandelier looks ruined. But you will see here we have this typewriter, and you could get to this first before you found that parchment on the table. So sometimes you encounter stuff that you don't know how to use yet. You need to keep that in your mind and think to yourself, what am I going to do with it later? But as we type Emeth, we're going to get a plate with his name popping up out of it. And if we run back to the room where the golem was in and we put that into his chest, he is then going to start to animate and move out of the way of that door, giving us access to even more parts of the castle. It's a really creative and inventive way to deal with puzzle solving when you're not in the pursuit scenario. Some of the pursuits are automatically triggered in certain parts of the game. Some of the pursuits can be random. You never know when you're going to have to stop doing what you're doing, run away, and hide. And that means that you're always having this low-level sense of dread and anxiety when you're playing the game, because you might be right in the middle of doing something that's important and you may have to completely give up and do something different, which is an awesome gameplay mechanic because you never feel safe. But again, like I mentioned earlier, how spectacular is it that this occurs without any loading whatsoever? Outside of cutscenes, and those don't really even have loading, they just have quick fades, this entire castle is explorable without anything going on whatsoever. But now that we pick this key up here, we're going to be getting a little bit more of the story. There's another character that has a particular aim that's going to be very clear momentarily, but watch and enjoy.
Ah, Fiona. I see you finally awakened. There's something that I've wanted to show you for quite some time. Pull away that sheet behind you. That, my dear, is what you will become in the future. Go ahead. You may touch it. You will be mine, Fiona.
That is quite disturbing on a lot of levels, not just for that maniacal laugh, but the fact that they're looking to impregnate Fiona, the main character. That is a definite controversial storyline, but I feel like the game actually handles it relatively well as far as how many ways they could have gone wrong with it. I give Haunting Ground super high marks for taking on some controversial subject matter, but never going too far in the wrong direction with it. But as we come down here, we've been looking for a map since the start of the game when we finally found it, and because we did get a key item, there's going to be another encounter, and that's kind of how the game plays out. Every time you make a little bit of forward progress, one of your pursuers is going to come after you. But like I said, Hunting Ground is an absolutely spectacular game. It is quite a special game. It takes on subject matter that video games don't normally pursue, and it does an extremely good job of towing the line between showing you and telling you things that are a little bit disconcerting without ever going too overboard. It is quite an expensive game, but I do suggest you find a way to play it. Short of that, leave me a question or comment below. Have you played Hunting Ground? What do you think about it? I will be back next Tuesday with another episode in this series. I'll have videos Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday as well. But it's time to run. Gotta go, guys. Bye-bye.